The world is a large and very strange place, filled with all manner of odd occurrences and mysterious things. So it only makes sense that an iceberg would be created that would highlight the very strangest of the things that have happened around the world. In this video, we'll focus 2 tiers at a time over the next several weeks, and we'll hand select some of the strangest things from each tier. With that said, let's dive into this iceberg. Located in front of Broadway Locksmith on East Johnson Street in Seattle, the Capitol Hill Mystery Soda Machine is a mysterious vending machine with a long and strange history. This 1970s machine had Coca-Cola branding all over it, but instead of dispensing Coca-Cola, it dispensed drinks from various manufacturers. To do this, a drink would be selected using one of the various mystery buttons, and drinks would be dispensed in all sorts of flavors and varieties, some of which were no longer being manufactured at the time. Local newspapers say that the machine has been in operation since at least the late 1990s, and around 2002 the drinks themselves were priced at 55 cents. But what's interesting is that only one of the buttons was labeled mystery alongside the others that dispensed normal drinks. But after this exposure in the news, all 6 buttons were then changed to mystery buttons, and a local legend began to grow. Throughout the years, the legend even developed to suggest that the machine itself was haunted. For those of you out there wanting to visit this cultural landmark, unfortunately you can no longer do so. As of 2018, the machine disappeared. This coincided with maintenance work being done in the local area. A note was left behind that stated, quote, "Went for a walk," where the machine once stood. The machine has yet to return, although a few images have been cited online of the machine looking in a more disheveled state. But locals note that the neighborhood it once inhabited of Capitol Hill has now become a more corporate area, and many doubt that the machine will ever return. The corrupted blood incident took place in World of Warcraft in 2005. At the time, the game had just introduced its 4th major raid, intended for large groups of players. The boss of this region was Hakar the Soul Flayer, and he would often cast debuff on players, this called corrupted blood. Once cast, the debuff would be transmitted to other players who were nearby. Now the effects of this were intended to last for roughly 10 seconds, or at least until the boss was defeated. The effect of this debuff was never meant to leave the region of which the boss resided, but players found a problem. You see, during said battle, players could protect their pet companions from the effect if they placed them into a type of suspended animation. Once the fight was done, and these players returned to major markets through fast travel, their pets would be reactivated. Once reactivated, these pets would still contain the debuff and would then become disease vectors, and the pandemic quickly spread throughout Azeroth. To top it off, there was no in-game cure for the corrupted blood debuff. Major cities in the game were strewn with skeletons of the deceased, and in-game chats were filled with warnings of where players should not go as the disease expanded. The event got so bad that healers became first responders and would try to ease or remove the debuff from characters, while others would stand in front of towns warning players not to enter lest they catch corrupted blood. After 3 days of the disease spreading, Blizzard released a statement saying that staff was aware of the issue and quickly set up quarantine zones and placed barriers around heavily infected areas. They even attempted rollbacks, pandemic hotfixes, and even restarted servers on a rolling basis, but corrupted blood outbreaks would always re-emerge. Corrupted blood was so bad and so prevalent that it risked destroying the World of Warcraft and forced Blizzard to perform a hard reset of all World of Warcraft servers, resetting the world to the state just before they introduced corrupted blood. Nearly a month later, Blizzard had taken care of the issue and introduced a patch that would make pet companions immune from contracting corrupted blood. In 2004, the internet had become a commonplace in homes, and the Chinese Communist Party, that same year, announced their goal of constructing what they dubbed a harmonious society. This goal has been cited by many as the government of China locking down their internet. As a result of this goal, Chinese netizens began to use the word harmonious or harmonization as a term for censorship, as the word censorship had itself been censored. In online spaces, netizens would say, quote, "It has been harmonized," when referencing something that the Chinese government had censored. As this term spread over the years, the word harmonious itself would become censored, at which Chinese netizens would switch to the word river crab. You see, river crab and harmonious sound very similar in Chinese. The term river crab would be used to define anything censored online in China, and one would be river crabbed if they were censored. This term lasted for several years, and it itself would expand to be changed to aquatic product, an allusion and a replacement for river crab when the government began to catch on with that term. The Polar Bear Holding Facility, also known to most as Polar Bear Jail, is a specialized building located in Churchill, Manitoba, Canada, where polar bears are sent who are considered troublesome or dangerous to the local population until they can be relocated elsewhere. Prior to the creation of this facility, polar bears in the region who were considered dangerous were simply shot and killed. To address this issue, the Polar Bear Holding Facility was established in 1982. This polar bear jail had 20 cells at the time, which could hold a total of 16 single bears, or 4 family groups. Rules stated that the bears could be held there from 2 to 30 days, and if a bear had been captured repeatedly, that term could be extended. These holdings aren't simply arbitrary, though. The premise is that extended captivity in the jail by the bears would instill a sense of fear, and thus prevent the bears, or at least they would become reluctant to approach town. The bears would also not be fed during their captivity, encouraging them to stay away from the area if they intended to feed. The situation with the polar bears got so bad that in 2014, the jail was extended from 20 cells to 28. And even today, the inhabitants of the area have to be careful when outside, as the town can be visited by up to 1,000 polar bears during the summer. The area is strewn with polar bear alert signs cautioning citizens and travelers of bears in the area, and there is even a dedicated phone number which those can call when they spot a bear in the area. By 1184, a land dispute between two powerful rulers had exploded, and so Henry VI, 18 at the time, was sent to mediate. He convened what is known as a Hoftag, an informal meeting of various rulers and prominent people in the region. Now, this meeting was set up on the second floor of a 2-story building near Erfurt Cathedral. Now, none of this was out of the ordinary, but what we know is that the upper floor's beams that were supporting the building had rotted out. And on the second day of the meeting, the floor collapsed under the weight of all those attending. The impact of the people, debris, and everything inside coming to the ground caused the floor to collapse, and some continued falling once they reached the ground floor into an underground cesspit. Information from the time suggests that around 60 people in total died, whether from injuries from the fall, being crushed by debris, or suffocating in the sewage of the latrine. At the time of the collapse, Henry VI was sitting in a stone alcove and thus avoided the fall, and was later rescued by the use of ladders to reach him. Alongside him, both of those in the land dispute also survived. Following the collapse, Henry VI departed the location and resumed his military campaign that he was on prior to this, leaving the dispute between those two people unresolved. Originating out of Moroccan folklore, door dogs or doorway dogs are small, silent dogs with very pointed noses, which can be seen following an individual in the weeks prior to their death. Now, these dogs are generally seen when the doomed person is about to pass through a threshold, such as a doorway, and can only be seen by others. The doomed person in question is not able to see their own door dog prior to their death. The Skoo Notes, named for their location being found in Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania, are a series of small papers with symbolism-oriented conspiracy theories printed on them. These have been left in various locations across the United States, but mostly found in the northeastern and central parts of Pennsylvania in Schuylkill County. The earliest reports of these notes being found was in 2019, with the local media reporting of their existence in 2020. Now, in 2020, a majority of these various conspiracy-laden notes were reportedly discovered inside the packaging of food products purchased from grocery stores throughout Schuylkill County, leading to their name. In a news report in 2023, emails and phone calls were made to law enforcement regarding these various notes, with many reporting them being found inside food packages as well as beauty products. This reporting became so intense that local, state, and even federal authorities initiated their own investigations. It went so high up that Congressman Dan Muser and Matt Cartwright expressed their own concerns about the notes worrying the public. At the time of this writing, there is a crowdsourced Google map suggesting that at least 139 notes have been discovered as of February of 2024. The notes themselves are incredibly small, measuring at about 2 to 3 inches, and are found folded in product packaging. The messages printed on the notes vary greatly with no rhyme or reason, but they do usually contain 19 lines of printed text, combine together multiple conspiracy theories. The notes became so prevalent that a Reddit community now exists to discuss these notes whenever they're found. The Dave rule, or the Dave to girl ratio, is a famous inside long-standing joke within Silicon Valley. It suggests that when a work team includes as many women as it does people named Dave, a very common male name, that said team has achieved what they call an acceptable gender balance. This is a long-standing joke in reference to Silicon Valley's infamous gender gap. First cited in 1999 at the Carnegie Mellon School of Computer Science under the name Dave to girl ratio, and would find its way to Silicon Valley in 2014 in an article by The Guardian, which was detailing a sexual harassment lawsuit filed against the dating app Tinder. The Arctic and Antarctic regions are some of the most barren and lifeless in all of the world, but that doesn't mean that they're free of crimes. In fact, in Antarctica, there have been a number of crimes dating all the way back to 1959. In that year, the Vostok Station, a then Soviet research base, was the scene of a fight between two scientists over a game of chess. When one lost the game, he got so angry that he attacked his playing partner with an ice axe. This was followed by arson in 1984 at the Almirante Brown Station, where the station's original facilities were burned to the ground by its leader and a doctor on April 12th of that year, after he was ordered to stay for the winter. In 1996, at McMurdo Station, a cook attacked another kitchen worker with a hammer, causing injuries that required 20 stitches and 5 staples in the main victim, as well as many stitches for another kitchen worker who tried to intervene. Then in May 20th, there was a suspicious death by poisoning at the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station. Australian astrophysicist Rodney Marks came down with a fever, followed by stomach pains and nausea. He quickly died the next day, and it's believed at the time that Marks had died of natural causes. It was the onset of winter, and so his body could not be removed for 6 months, and was put into a freezer at the base. After the 6 months passed, his body was flown to New Zealand for a proper autopsy. It was there that they concluded he had died from a form of methanol poisoning, but that poisoning and how he came in contact to it remains a mystery. Then in 2018, there was an attempted homicide at another Russian research station, when an electrical engineer stabbed a welder in the chest several times. It's noted by several in attendance that the stabbings took place because the victim had been giving out the endings to the books that the attacker had been checking out from the station's library. Another source indicates that the fight may have taken place when the victim was told by the attacker to dance on top of a table to make some extra cash. While these two accounts do differ, one thing that remains the same between the two is that the attacker had been intoxicated at the time of the attack. And most recently, in February of 2025, a researcher at a South African base alleged through an email that a male colleague had become mentally unstable and violent and had attacked one researcher, sexually assaulted another, and had made plans to kill yet another. The Republic of Malassia is a self-described micronation of about 11 acres located in Dayton, Nevada. Founded by Kevin Bao back in 1977, the micronation has not received any recognition from the 193 member states of the United Nations. For his part, Bao continues to pay property taxes on the land he owns to Story County, Nevada, the officially recognized local government. Although Bao claims this payment to be, quote, foreign aid. Although not officially recognized, the Republic of Malassia has its own culture. Plastic bags and incandescent light bulbs are banned in the Republic, and detonating any nuclear device within the nation will result in a $400 fine. They also have their own national anthem and cuisine, with the signature drink of the nation being the Malassalini, a non-alcoholic mixed drink of Sprite, grenadine, and pineapple juice. Alongside other food, onions and spinach are banned within Malassia due to the president's dislike of them. The Republic of Malassia went fairly unknown outside of the locals in the region until around 2010, when the Republic of Malassia was featured in a feature-length special by Channel Awesome known as Kickassia, where Bao played a fictionalized version of himself. Alongside this, the Republic of Malassia sends a representative to what is known as MicroCon, a biennial summit or conference of micro-nationalists held every other year since around 2015. This event itself was created by Bao, and every summit since has been hosted by a different micronation. The largest of these events, MicroCon 2019, took place in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and had 113 guests from 43 different micronations. Otherkin, or other kind, is a subculture of individuals who identify as partially or entirely beings who are not human. Many otherkin believe that their identity derives from non-physical or spiritual phenomena. This takes the form of otherkin having a non-human soul, or potentially being reincarnations of some creature. Some otherkin even give non-spiritual explanations for themselves, such as psychology or a form of neurodivergence. The otherkin subculture primarily developed throughout online communities starting in the early 1990s thanks to the rise of the internet, growing from small groups who described themselves as elves during the 1970s and 80s. During the late 2000s, the term otherkin had become treated as a sort of umbrella or catch-all term for those non-human identity subcultures. The umbrella term identifies creatures of the natural world, those of mythology, or even popular culture. Some examples include them being aliens, angels, dragons, fairies, horses, foxes, and even unicorns, as well as other fictional characters. There are even more rare otherkin who identify as plants, machines, and even concepts themselves. At present, the term Therian refers to people who spiritually, physically, or psychologically identify as an animal, more closely related to the original term. And that's it for Tier 1 and 2 of the Strange Things Iceberg. Thank you for all of those that made it to the end of this video. If you liked what you saw, the best thing you can do is like, comment, and subscribe to help the channel grow and show us that you like this sort of content so we can do more of it for you. Until next time, stay safe and we'll see you again in the next video.